nothing better than a story. If you can take a story to a philanthropist, they will listen to you. Everyone loves listening to stories, right? Your story is going to be built by people. First, I actually want to congratulate all of you. Given the great scores that you've gained in the course of your program. Now, what we're essentially going to cover is why am I here? Because AIP is slightly different from the other organizations or the donor profiles that you usually meet and talk to. And also some of the insights that we have gained being in this space. I've already done this. I'm just going to start with a baseline, right? A lot of things that you see here, you will relate to it. Scaling is very different. There are around 3 million NPOs in the space, and a lot of them are struggling to scale, right? And scaling, interestingly, also means very different to a lot of NPOs. Some NPOs believe scale should be on length, right? Or on depth, which says that I'm going to focus on a certain amount of beneficiaries and I'm going to go very deep with them, right? So for instance, if you're an organization which is focusing on skilling, for instance, right? And you say that my beneficiaries are going to be 200 this year, maybe 300 next year. But I'm going to go very deep in it, right? I'm going to not just do one particular intervention, but several interventions, right? And also it's about, my mission versus my growth, right? So again, my mission is to educate children, or my mission is to stop women and child trafficking, right? Now, it could be that you focus on growing this year on year, right? Saying that, this year I have a team, I have a budget. Next year, if I want to make more impact, I grow further and I become bigger, right? Or what you could say is that, listen, this is my mission, right? I'm going to keep my budget as is. I'm going to keep my team as is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on partners. I'm going to work with the government. I'm going to work with the other NPOs who are in the space, right? And you kind of grow, like with partnership, what you say is that instead of me spending so much on people and growing that organization, let me work with other people. It's like a cooperative, right? Very similar to a cooperative. And then, of course, the three things which are important and also very challenging are funding, right? The bandwidth, each one of you, right? You're so involved in the work that you're doing. You're so passionate about it. You believe in it so much. It kind of takes you away from focusing on building your organization. And then, of course, access to funders and interests. You'll often notice this, right? So I find there's a diverse mix of causes that you're all working on. There is education, there is climate, there is skilling, there's sustainable agriculture. But you'll often notice that there are 3 or 4 sectors that most of the people want to fund. There's education, there is health, there is skilling, which is coming right now, and climate isn't. It's like the hottest space that everyone wants to fund. So when you start talking about sustainable agriculture, right, people are like, they're not able to relate to it, right? Everyone talks about gender, okay? Like that's a very common topic. But when you go to them and start talking about gender, they listen to you, but you will not hear back from them, right? So that is the other issue, another problem. Expectations mismatch. Often you will come across a certain number of donors, right, who would say that I only want you to put my money in programs. They tell you where the money has to go, right? And that means that you can't focus on the development of your organization. So what do? To convince them or to keep the relationship going, you start cutting back on your costs, right? Or you underrepresent your costs. So always when you're speaking to a particular donor, speak from a level playing field, right? You're going to them, you're talking about the programs that you work, and I'm also going to talk about how you engage with them. But always believe that the power dynamics should not lead to your own end. Philanthropy is all about long-term commitment, right, to a cause and to the partner. It's about unrestricted funding, right? You work with the partner. You don't dictate terms to the partner, right? It is flexible, right? That's the whole point about unrestricted funding. And philanthropy is meaningful. It starts from the heart. All philanthropists have actually either a lived experience meaning they've actually at some point or the other gone through that, right? Or they've observed it, right? So to me, when I refer to a donor, I'm talking about a philanthropist. These are people who are millionaires and billionaires. And these are the challenges that they have. There are three sets of challenges that they would have. One is motivation, right? I'm already in CSR. Why should I do philanthropy? Why should I release my personal private capital, right? Also because a lot of them are promoters of small organizations, privately held companies, right? So what they believe is that I'm anyway giving 2%, 3% of my CSR. Why should I give my private capital, right? It's also about I'm already paying taxes, right? What more can I do? Also, can I make a difference? There are so many problems in the country. Can my money really make a difference? So those are motivational issues. Then there are cultural issues, right? At the end of the day, India is not a US. It's not a UK, right? Even the people who've recently gained money, there's always that fear that I may lose it, right? I want to build a very strong capital. Then there's a structural issue. Like I said, there's so many NGOs out there, there's so much great work happening out there. For them to discover that, to find that out, is also a challenge. Right? And I think, Dilip, you also covered that, right? Like, how do I discover? Who do I give to? Who do I work with? Right? How do I align myself? How can they align themselves? Right? So these are pretty much the challenges that donors face. And therefore, we believe that it's not so much about they don't want to give, right? Once we overcome these barriers, there is an opportunity for philanthropy. There is an opportunity that philanthropy can cover gaps that the government funding is not able to provide, is able to be more long-term and more sustainable. Now I'm going to focus on two things, right? Some of the insights that we have gained working in this particular space, and then also answer some of the pain points that you face. Dilip also mentioned about that. Now, if you want to scale, right, and when it comes to scale, there are four things that you have to keep in mind. Always design for scale, right? And that's pretty much what I was talking to, that's pretty much what I'm guessing 20 Foundation is also doing, right? And which is what you should also think about. Like if today I'm working on a particular program, let's talk about education again, right? If you say that I'm going to focus on education by getting 7 highly trained teachers and put them in a school, you can't scale it. Because your limitation is finding that 7 highly trained teachers. The problem with the system is finding trained teachers. So how do you design for scale? You say, let me invest in teacher training. And you can grow that year on year. And when you invest in teacher training, then you can also think of having these teachers working in schools. So you see, you start with a school, you start with a particular village, or you start with a particular district, then you focus on more districts, and then you could grow statewide. So that's what I mean when I say design for scale. And the best way to do that is pilot ideas. Start small, right? And then see what more you could do there. And think about standardization. What components can you standardize? The other thing I want to emphasize is technology. Invest in technology, leverage technology. I heard someone speak about organic farming here, right? One of the things in sustainable agriculture right now, especially in the space of millets, is saving millet seeds, which are kind of going extinct, right? Because the focus has been on mainstream crops. Your approach. Now, nothing better than a story. If you can take a story to a philanthropist, they will listen to you. Everyone loves listening to stories, right? Your story is going to be built by people, your beneficiaries, people that you're working with. Use video formats, right? And in today's times, in fact, because you are working at the grassroots level, right? You're so close to the ground. Take a camera with you, take your mobile phones, record, build a story, work with someone who can help you build that story, right? And that is also going to help you build a very compelling elevator pitch, that 1 minute pitch. The 1 minute pitch is not so much about saying everything that you do in that 1 minute. It's essentially telling them into why they should listen to you the next time around, or why should they come to you and talk to you again? Or why should they listen to you for another 5 or 6 minutes? That's what a 1 minute pitch is. So focus on that. And the most important thing to do there is not talk about your NGO. Talk about the impact that has been created. Talk about how that person can create an impact. And then that person is going to be interested in you. I also like to add one more thing. is that when you do take them around to your sites, right, don't choreograph it. Don't orchestrate it. Let it be factual. Because often we have heard philanthropists come back and said that that was just made up for us. That's not authentic. The most important thing is even every story, even your website, your social media, your conversation, your interaction, there needs to be authenticity. This is what it is. This is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. The minute you choreograph it, then it's also likelihood that philanthropist is going to say that, oh, this is great. Why do you need my money? What would you tell them? Right? So keep it authentic. Yeah. And the final thing is about funding. When you come to it, right? Now it's about sensing, right? Now it's about human behavior. How are they responding to what you are saying? Sense that. Are they listening to you? Right? Do you see, like, for instance, some of you I see are nodding your heads, right? And I'm assuming that you're listening to me, right? Get those verbal cues. Are they tuned in? Are they asking you questions? For instance, if you say, this is my growth plan, are they going to say that, fine, why do you need my money? Where do you plan to put my money in? It means they're listening to you. So pick those cues as well. How are they responding to what you are saying? And not just say that, listen, I want your money. Even at that point of time, tell them, you know what, I'd be really happy to also hear from you on how we could make this bigger and better with your money. And most importantly, show them how their money makes a difference. That's the most important thing. And also show how others who have bought into this, right, how they have given into this, that's made an impact. That's how you create a movement, right? We often, the stories that we hear about independence or anything that you see in the recent times, it's about movement, right? Every cause that people have fought for, when they got numbers, they made a movement. That's what you need to do. Tell the philanthropist that, listen, you could be part of this movement, right? And then you can talk about funding. So even when you're talking about funding, keep it at that. Don't make a transaction that I need 10,000, whatever, and I'm going to put it to this and this use. That's not going to help. Rather show them how does that 10,000 make a difference, and how the others who have given that 10,000 has been put to use and how that's been useful, without making it data heavy. Don't even now, for instance, I'll just give you a simple example of what I just did right now. I think I had like 27 slides or something. I saw all of you listening to the other presentations. I saw the other presentations. I said, you know what, enough has been said.